Hi, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel, Reverend MeeLing. Been known by a few names, Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle. Been known by a few names. So, today is the 20th of June, 2020. And, so I am going to make a couple of satirical comments. I'm going to give that warning because some people need that warning that, I'm going to make a couple of jokes and be a little bit sarcastic, because I've been told how mean I can be. As I've had college students tell me over and over again so many times about how, just so scary my words were. And so, yeah, my words were scary to some people. I thought that there are a lot scarier things in the world than my words. But then again, I thought about more recently how, there have been times where I've spoken and then what I said has come into reality. So I guess by technicalities, certain words could technically be scary. But at those times I was being told that my words were scary because I was speaking the truth. And my words were scary because I was expressing in words how I care about my son and my daughter. And I was using words to express how I care about, military guys, of active duty National Guard reservists and, veterans. And so those were scary words for some people. I didn't realize expressing concern and care was considered as scary, but apparently to college students who are telling me that, I should be more concerned and more caring because they were accustomed to their mommies and daddies telling them that. So then my question, in my thoughts is, if me expressing my concern for my children and military, law enforcement, fire department, EMS, and so on and so forth, if that's scary, so then you must be petrified of your parents. Because as much as people have told me, oh, my mommy told me that I'm so special, but you talking like that, it's just so I guess they must have had just such an atrocious background growing up, and that must be why they're so scared of carrying words. I don't know, I could be wrong, but maybe that's a possibility for some of them. College students that I've known over the years. So, a little ornery. I'm in a little bit of an ornery mood right now. So, tends to happen every now and then, so I was listening to, he calls himself Just Another Brandon, not Just Another Brandon. And he calls his channel Just Another Channel, but it's not Just Another Channel. And so, my opinion, I doubt I'm the only person who thinks that. That being said, so I was listening to him. He's at the Trump rally for, yay, President Trump. Because yes, I did vote for him. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Not only did I vote for the current president of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, I didn't even realize I was campaigning for him because I didn't know what campaigning technically is. So yeah. I did that in Washington State. How scary is that for some of those college students? If you really think about it, me caring about military guys and law enforcement guys and fire department guys and EMS guys, on top of, caring about my children, the ones I gave birth to, my son and my daughter. Apparently, if that was scary for them back, from especially 2009 to 2012, I would guesstimate those same people were, how dare she be supportive of who is the current president of the United States of America? And so, but who didn't see that coming? Who didn't see me, as many people that had cornered me and tried to tell me, you cannot be a Republican, look at you. Uh-huh. What about it? You can't be a Republican? Yeah, I can. You want to know how I can be a Republican? How? When I go to the voting thing and I click the Republican box, that's one way. Another way is my personal beliefs and opinions. So that's another check mark there, pun intended. And so, but who didn't see that I was gonna be like all excited for, the presidential election of 2016 and 2020 now, but at that time, because those who knew me back in Texas before I wound up in Washington State, that actually knew me and listened to the words that came out of my mouth. The words that came out of my face. One face, by the way, not multiple faces like certain individuals, kind of like my biological sister as an example, hypothetically speaking. And so, among quite a few others that I've known over the years, how many of those people really were shocked? I kind of actually want to know, because as many times as I discussed, which I didn't even realize was considered as politics, without any, like, oh, it's politics, I guess, whatever. You mean what happens for a group of people that need to be taken care of, and so, okay, fine, whatever. But nonetheless, as many times as I've discussed political backgrounds and ideas and so on and so forth, apparently, apparently that's the word, my mistake, I didn't know that was the thing. Nonetheless, as many times as I discussed it over the years, and not even just from the time frame I listed, from the time of waking up from my coma on Palm Sunday in 2000, from the head injury I had during basic training. In medical hold unit, I discussed, by technicalities, politics. Before I joined, and I should clarify, before I fought to be emancipated, to join the United States of America's Armed Forces Army branch, I had discussed a lot of this stuff, even as far back, granted, well before then, nonetheless, in 8th grade, when I had earned the ability to go meet the governor of the state of New Jersey at that time, Todd Whitman, which that would mean politics, right? A governor is an elected politician. Yes, okay. And so going and meeting Todd Whitman after earning my way to, because of, I made a pastel poster. Instead of using markers, I was given a partner named Maria Gonzalez, but she didn't want to do her part, like, at all. And so she kept my art supplies that I brought over to her house, because she wouldn't let me there was an altercation, and it was just, I'm not doing all the work. You're not going to get me to do all the work and you take credit for it. So you have to make your own thing. And I flat out, I don't think so. You are not gonna. And I even went to the teacher the next day, and I was like, Mr., I can't remember what his last name is, but it starts with a T, and he would always wear fish ties and like pastel pink shirts. It's a very unique look that he had going on. It was always very light pastel color shirts, and then like vibrant fish ties, just extreme, like salmon and barracuda and shark and all that sort. Like, those were the type of ties that he would wear with these very, very pastel color shirts. And it was one of those, I have a crush on you, but that's nothing. And so you are a very good looking male, which I will never have a chance with, and that is perfectly fine. But, nonetheless, I went to him and I was like, Mr. T, I can't remember what his actual last name was. I said, I went over, we were supposed to make this thing, and I'm just telling you, I'm going to make my own poster. If she wants to go, she can go with her own thing, but I'm doing my own. And he was like, well, Susan, don't you think that you should work? If I'm going to do all the work, why should I share the credit? And the teacher just looked at me and was like, well, you could. I'm not doing that. She can make her own thing. And if she winds up being able to go on her own accord, then she can go on her own accord. Otherwise, I'm just going to make my thing and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to get in there. I'm going to go meet the governor. But I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to take credit or have my credit taken away from what I did. I'm not going to take somebody else's credit, but I am not letting my credit be taken away. And he just was, okay, yeah, huh? So I made a poster twice as big as I originally was going to make. And I made it out of pastels instead of using markers and crayons. I used actual chalk pastels to make it. And it was the biggest size of poster board that you could buy and all that sort of stuff. And yeah. Everybody else had these like little 8 by 12 pieces of paper, and I had like the huge poster board. It's like, that's right, I made that. Ironically, my ocean tattoo, without the other stuff, kinda looks like certain parts of that. Which is a whole other ball of wax. Anyway, so when meeting Governor Whitman, I had an idea of what my question was going to be. However, at the time I knew someone whose mom was looking at being fired because of the only mental health facility in the state of New Jersey being closed down. The only state run. And so out of concern for my friend, of course, but also her mom, despite her mom not necessarily liking me that much at the time, it was one of the, and not just her, even though her mom and dad were divorced, including her dad, because her dad, had enough to do with his own job and stuff like that. And so, his ex-wife, which it was my friend, or is my friend's mom, or however you want to say it, would genuinely care about his daughter, and so instead of asking the question that I was going to ask, I chose to wait in line. They lined everybody up alphabetically, and then, it was weird because Maria Gonzalez turns around, looks at me in line, and she goes, look, I'm in front of you. I look at her and I'm like, yeah, okay, because it's alphabetical. Whoop-de-doo. Oh, I still got in to meet, Governor Whitman. Yeah, good for you. My poster's bigger. Which is, as I realize right now, extremely tomboyish or male to say. But I did say that was because, my poster was bigger. It was like 32 by 46 or whatever it is, the really big poster. I was like, yeah, that's right, yeah, look at that. Yeah, you got a little 8-inch by 12-inch. Yeah, I got it. Look how big my poster is if you want to go into that. That's right. Look at that. Some might be able to joke that pre-head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, I was a little ornery, maybe. But then again, there are probably some people who have met some people who grew up in New Jersey who could be like, yeah, I could see that. I knew some people that would have done the exact same thing. And so there was this one situation where this happened, and not the exact same, but yeah, so much like that. And growing up in New Jersey and going where I walked around. But yeah, that's right. Look at my big old poster. It's so big that I have to, hold it and it drags on the ground. What you got? You got a little piece of paper. Yeah, that's right. My poster's so big that I can lean it against my thigh, and it's still touching the ground on the short distance, not even the long distance. And what you got? And just think when I roll it up, how big that is, huh? Even though it's supposed to be small, how small is you're going to be when my, yeah, all right. And I gave you the warning. And so, getting, and, everybody from A to G in front of me. What's it like to be a Governor Whitman? And I'm standing there and I'm just like, nothing else. No other questions. No other questions. And then I hear the people that are directly behind me. Oh, I'm going to ask her what it's like to be a governor. This isn't going to be interesting, was my thought. It was like, well, I guess I'm going to ask a different question, because that's definitely not what I'm asking her, not what I was going to initially ask her, and definitely not what I'm going to ask her now. And so then, get up to meet her, and she shook my hand. I'm like, hi! So I have a friend whose mom works for the, state of New Jersey's Marlboro mental health facility that you're looking at closing down by your policies. And so I was just wondering about the different people who have jobs in the medical care and medical profession that work there and do the best that they can for all of the patients that are there. So what's going to happen as far as both sides in that regard? And then what's going to happen in the societal view if you're not going to make sure and maintain those particular aspects, which are obviously important. And at that point, the governor, Todd Whitman, leaned back before any of the guys that were, garrar. You guys are so good looking in your suits. Why is she leaning back to you? Was my thought. Like, what is she doing? Do you guys smell that good that she has to lean back? I don't understand. Okay, one of you guys is wearing really good cologne. Okay, I can understand that. Nonetheless, then, she's... And then one of them, peas and carrots. In my thoughts, what does peas and carrots have to do with my question? What does peas and carrots have to do with my question? I do not understand. And then she leans forward and she's like, I was just reminded that I have a meeting to go to. So, what? You knew exactly we were going to be here. You knew. And I did, just like I bucked up to my teacher in a respectful way, realistically. I bucked up to her. Why? We were told we could ask any question we wanted. Don't tell us that we could ask any question we want to ask about you and then, not answer it. And so, she left the room, but we got an extra long tour at the Capitol of New Jersey. And then, the rest of the bus ride from Newark, New Jersey to those who know the distance and specifically the time frame, because New Jersey is a very tiny state. Don't let that tiny state size fool you. The traffic there is brutal. So from Newark, New Jersey during business rush hour to Marlboro Middle School. Yeah, it was several hours. Suzanne, if you didn't ask that question, we could have asked what it was like to be governor. I don't care. She didn't answer my question, so, just saying. And then, of course, the few people from A to G for their last names. Well, we got to ask her what it was like to be governor. Why don't you just tell them? Because it's probably the same answer that she told all of you that she would have told all of them. And so then, on the bus ride, it was, well, she said it was like this to be governor to me, and I felt so special. And then the next person, and then she said this to me. And by the time getting to Marie or Maria Gonzalez, and her saying, and then she told this to me. And then I just sat there and I was like, oh, God, because, verbatim. Now, for someone like me with head injury issues, and I know I'm not the only person who has this issue, there are certain things as far as repetition. It is the intent and the feeling that is actually of importance. I could say the exact same thing 20 different times, possibly, but the intent and the meaning and all that sort of stuff, depending on who the person is, if it's talking about feelings and stuff, depends on the intent and the meaning, right? I'm not the only person who does that, right? I mean, I'm not the only person who had a head injury. Maybe the only person who had a head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 the way I did. Probably not that many people were thrown into the metal part of a bunk by a drill sergeant at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I may be the only person who dealt with that, hypothetically speaking. Nonetheless, just saying, I am not the only person who had a head injury. And so, but in that regard of if I'm asked a question, depending on how I'm asked the question, depending on who's asking me the question, that sort of stuff, I'm still going to tell the truth. However, if it's the same question that's been asked over and over, that sort of thing. But as far as what was told to all of the kids in the class that I went with, same exact tone of voice, same exact facial expressions. Like I didn't even have to see the kids who were asking the questions. I just watched Christine Todd Whitman, the governor of New Jersey at the time. I was like, she is not changing her facial expression whatsoever. Her body language is exactly the same. And I don't even feel a difference in her heart rate. At all. Now, I know that in this, official YouTube video, I have to stay within the, camera view and stuff like that. So that kind of limits my movement, mainly because of having to stay within the thing. But nonetheless, get me out in a situation with actual people, and I'm still me. It's just a little bit bigger. Because I don't have to, stay within the camera thing. I can just, whatever. And so, just be me. That's that simple. And so, and not in any offense towards politicians. I get there are certain things, but yeah, as far back as specifically 8th grade in New Jersey, please. I didn't see any problems with my questions. I still don't. So anybody who knew me in the state of Texas, that was like, why this and why that and blah, 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 blah. Well, I did that in 8th grade. And I've only gotten up to 2nd grade math. So, I guess by technicalities, you can make a joke. I'm a little ahead of myself in that regard at that time frame, being like, well, I remember asking that question in 8th grade. So, I'm only I got checked out, and all the Army doctors and Air Force doctors and United States government doctors, because of the different tests that I had to go through, they all said I'm in 2nd grade math, especially compared to the college algebra, trigonometry, and calculus that I used to be able to do. And my biological father is 1st generation Chinese. Think about how my tests had to be for me to consider. Because, I had a bunch of people in Texas that were like, oh, we get pass-fail. Pass-fail? Does that mean you get 100 or you fail? Because I grew up that way. I know what that is. I know what that means. No, if you get above a certain... Well, what's the number? And different people told me different numbers, and I was like, is that how many questions that you could answer? No, no, that's just the score. So how many questions are you asked if you could get like a 60 something and consider to pass? Is it like that there's like 60 something questions, or are there like 50 something questions and they're like whatever? No, 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 there's however many questions, and you could pass with a 60? What? Do you know what would have happened to me if I came back to my house and when I was growing? Are you? Even as an adult, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. That's been ingrained in me. I forget that after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. And here's something for like scuba divers. My biological father was in the state of Texas when I went through scuba diving. I'm just saying. I grew up the way I did. I remember that. And so, yes, a lot of it was, having to make sure that I, was a safe diver and am and all that sort of stuff. But also one of those in the back of my thoughts, it's like, I better get every question correct, not just for my safety, but he lives in the state. Oh. 100 is passing. A 99 is failing. And in scuba diving, when you really think about it, by technicalities in scuba diving, you technically can take that into an actual viewpoint, not just because of the testing aspect, but also like in the water work sort of thing. And that's actually more of the influence in that regard that actually did, because it was one of those, I want to make as many safe ascents as I make safe descents. And after the way I grew up, I'm gonna get 100. If I could get 150, I'm gonna get 150. If I can get a 350, I'll get a 350. I just, whatever is the top grade, that is what I'm going for, because I don't want to be asked by my biological father. So, because, it's not the same. But at the same time, I don't want to be asked by Mike, so, you did what with your school? Yeah, I got, I don't care. I know there are people who understand. I know there are people who get that. So, oh, you went to this scuba diving course? Yeah, I did. Well, what'd you get? I got 100. Well, what score could you get? 100. Okay. Well, I guess you passed. Yeah. Although the one class that I had told him about that I had gone through, which was nitrox, he was like, why you gotta go do the juju juice? And it's like, it's not juju juice, it's called nitrox. What is wrong with you? No, it's the magic juju juice. No, it's called nitrox. It's not magic. It's scientifically proven. There is a difference. Although back in the day, it used to be considered that science and alchemy were kind of one and the same and considered magical, but not the way that magical actually is, but just because of the people who didn't get that understanding. Like, for a very long time, they thought Leonardo da Vinci was, a magician, when realistically he was doing science. And in certain regards, he actually did do some magician stuff in like the esoteric realm. However, not the exact same in this era as far as the nitrox. Because nitrox is not magic juju juice. It's nitrox. Well, what was the score you got? 100. 100. That's what I got. What could have you gotten? 100. It's the highest score I could have gotten. I got 100. You're not lying to me. No, I don't know how to. Like, come on now. It's like, ooh, no, I know better than to lie. I know better. Believe me, I know better. Just saying. So, the people that I've known over the years who are like, Whether they knew me as Susan, whether they knew me as Susan MeeLing, whether they knew me as Lady Dori Belle, or whether they knew me as Lady, all the different blah, 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 different names, nonetheless, however they knew me. Why are you so much into politics? I mean, I'm not really. However, you know, I have met a couple politicians over the years. Mainly before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, I met quite a few. Well, who? That's none of your business. I can tell you that I met Governor Todd Whitman, because that's a public thing that's known. Who I've met as far as different politicians, that's none of your business. I grew up where I grew up. I'll just leave it at that. What people actually that are politicians go to New Jersey? I grew up where I grew up. I went to the church that I grew up going to. I met who I met, and that's all you need to know. Oh, you're just so secretive. No, I'm not. I'm telling you. I've known a few politicians, and who I've met is none of your business. If they want to disclose that they met me, okay, but since it wasn't in a public sort of way, and it wasn't like, you know, a big to-do sort of thing, the way it was in reference to meeting Governor Todd Whitman, it's none of your business who I met. I'll just leave it at that. And that was before I wound up in Washington State, mind you. It's just, and realistically, that was even in Illinois before I fought to be emancipated to be in the Army. Branch of the Armed Forces for the United States of America. I grew up a certain way. There are people who understand the way I grew up. And who I met is who I met. I grew up going to the 5 boroughs of New York. I met who I met. Now, realistically, at this point, I don't necessarily remember all of the names of the people that I met. However, it is what it is. And that same thing goes for when in the state of Texas, I had feelings that I had met certain individuals, but I never made a big to-do about it. Not because of being rude towards the people that I had a feeling that I had met. Same thing with Seattle. You know, there were certain ones that has been like, well, that'd be interesting if I met, but, you know, at the same time, one of those, they're still human beings. And, you know, in the moment, I'm not going to be thinking about that. I could literally, here's the thing, okay? So I obviously voted, as I've said, for the current president of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. He could himself, with, you know, current Vice President Mike Pence, walk up and be like, hi, we're, you know, Vice President of the United States of America. And, you know, the first few things would be like, hey, that's pretty cool. I voted for you. And then it'd be like, so can I get you a cup of coffee? You want to sit down and talk? What you want? Like, it wouldn't be anything different than how I am. Actually, where I was volunteering, I literally could have been told, yeah, I'm so-and-so. Oh, okay, do you need something? Can I help get you squared away? Is there anything you need me to explain? You good to go? You good to, all right, cool. Go dance. You know, that's just, and it's not out of disrespect. It's out of actual respect, because it was one of those, you are still a human being. It's that simple. And so while there were people that, I could have met all sorts of people, but I took the aspects, especially, well, anytime, but in regards of when in the state of Texas, and certain aspects going on from 2009 through 2012, I could have met all sorts of people. I've had all sorts of questions asked of me. And I gave my honest opinions and my honest thoughts. No different than, especially in this particular reference, in regards to the events of 9/11 and how that occurred, as far as like who I spoke with to assist where I could. And not that I had viewed at those times any different than the day of 9/11 and the subsequent couple of weeks thereafter, as not saying it wasn't a big deal, but just not making a big deal out of it because it was needing to be done. So I could have had, for example, who is a non-political, okay, I like country music, so, you know, I could have had George Strait come up to me and be like, hey, probably wouldn't do it like that, I don't know, but, you know, hey, I got a question about this, and okay, cool, da-da-da-da. You know, just like I could have had military. I've actually had a few military guys when I was in the state of Texas that had come up and asked me some questions. They usually asked me off to the side and we'd talk for a little bit. And I'd give them a couple of whatever I thought. But that was it. And so it wasn't anything in a disrespectful way. And that is same for law enforcement, a fire department, EMS, all that sort of stuff. I could have met actual politicians in the state of Texas and never have known. But if they asked me a question, just give my response, and that was the end of that. And it wasn't a big, like, thing in that regard. Not in regards to meeting them wasn't a big thing. More along the lines of similarly, in reference to answering questions, if it can be beneficial, here you go. If it needs to be, you know, modified in certain regards so it makes more sense, here you go. That's it. So all of the little, you know, college students, which this was the irony of ironies to me. What are the 3 things that you are supposedly not supposed to talk about? Sex, politics, and religion, right? Being in the adult lifestyle. How is it that you're going to tell me it's taboo to talk about politics and religion, but we can talk about sexual stuff? I don't think so. That's just not how that works. You are not going to tell me it's okay to discuss sexual stuff in that sort of specific atmosphere, but it's too taboo to discuss politics or religion. You know, and please, how many people, when in certain things as consenting adults, are saying a specific name when they are absolutely enjoying themselves? It's either Jesus, Jesus Christ, or God. And don't tell me, don't you tell me there's no discussion of religion. Just saying. You might not be actually talking about it, but you get to see who? That's right. Just joking. Just don't be so offended. Nonetheless, just one of those, I mean, I know that when I've enjoyed myself, well, usually I hear them saying that I'm just enjoying myself. And that is what it is. Not that I have that high of a number, but, you know, I make sure I'm going to enjoy myself. I know the males are going to get off. That's... Duh. Doesn't take much. The wind can blow, pun intended, in certain regards if you were born in an air sign. And, it's gonna happen. Nonetheless, I gave a warning. However, yeah, no, I'm gonna make sure I get mine. Call me selfish, I don't care. More females need to be able to enjoy themselves anyway and actually get theirs. You know, go and let a male go inside you and you can't even get yours. Best pay the toll, bitch. Just saying. Yeah, that's right. That's a different type. Anyway, so you best get on your knees and pray, bitch. And otherwise, no entrance, and that I don't care. Even then, that's not a guarantee. And so, I know there are plenty of females. We're here. We're here on that. Whether you want to admit it or not, we're here. Nonetheless, I've had many. How dare you discuss that stuff in the BDSM lifestyle? What person do you think would actually be into political discussion in the BDSM lifestyle? I don't know. I have this feeling. I could be wrong, but I have this feeling there might be a couple of guys that could be possibly, hypothetically, in some way interested in some sort of that. I have this feeling that if they're I have this weird feeling I could be wrong. And I'm not being sexist by saying guys. I mean, you know, the East Coast term. And then there's that where I grew up walking around. And I'm not saying that I met those guys in those particular locations at all. I did go to the church that I grew up going to, which had, you know, very historical church. It was used as a hospital during the Revolutionary War. However, I will say that there were certain individuals that I heard when walking by that said, I am so glad that there are cushions for these pews. And I will just leave that at that in certain regards, because I don't think that that one is very difficult to understand when it comes to certain aspects, pun intended. And so that is what it is. And so you can just saying. I paid attention when I was a child. I grew up hearing from my biological father, pay attention to your surroundings and pay attention to details. Check. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And so, but yeah, I've technically, I guess, by technicalities, been in politics, just not like officially except until like 8th grade. And then, you know, otherwise, you know, but then by the definition of politics, for the people. And, you know, if you're only talking about yourself, well, then you're egotistical. If you're talking about the benefits for other people, no matter what the particular aspects are, by that definition and by technicalities, that would mean you're political. So if you care about yourself, obviously, but if you also care about others, then you're automatically, by that account, considered as political. By the definition of the word. Just saying. But if you're only talking about yourself and what best benefits you and not caring about anybody other than yourself, then you're just egotistical. I've had the right to only think about myself, just like anybody has had the right to only think about themselves. But despite what I have been through, and despite the way I dealt with what I dealt with, I knew that I wasn't the only one who went through what I went through, or the only one who saw certain things going on at certain times. And so, you know, while yes, I could have only paid attention in reference to what occurred to me, that's just not the type of person I am. I'm not an egotistical person, despite what plenty have said about me. I've had this thing where I've just cared as I have cared. And as far as the questions are concerned, that happened pre-head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. I had a lot of guys of various ages ask me a bunch of questions over the years, well before I fought to be emancipated to join the United States of America's Armed Forces Army branch. And I can genuinely say that when the 93 attack occurred, I had a lot of people that had asked me a bunch of questions. Even when I was being homeschooled at the time in 5th grade, my homeschool teacher asked me questions that had nothing to do with what I was being homeschooled about. And so, Miss LaPiana, my babysitter, her husband, asked me a whole bunch of questions. So did their kids. Though sometimes I was a nuisance because, you know, I was playing with stuff. And tinkering. You know, just I had grown up with as many different things available to me as far as being around technology stuff. Which is a big annoyance now with how bad I am with technology. I can tell you that right now. I could tell people how to do stuff. Can't do it myself. Mainly because I don't want to be electrocuted. That hurts. I don't recommend it. I mean, I know that there are people who are into that. I just personally don't recommend it. It hurts. I mean, if you're a masochist, hey, I am not a masochist. I am a dominant sadist, thank you very much. And so, nonetheless. So yeah, and then the other aspect that I was going to bring up in reference to this official YouTube video of mine is if anybody in the state of Texas was like, oh, well, she thinks she's better than us for being in Washington State. Look, she did this and she did. If I thought that I was better than anybody else, well, I don't know what that actually would be in that. Like, I think, like, I guess that would be egotistical, and nonetheless, if anybody also thought that, oh, she doesn't like the state of Texas. My son and my daughter were born in the state of Texas. I woke up in the state of Texas from my coma. There were certain people I didn't like. Not the only one. Just saying. A majority of my memories that I actually have in far more detail, especially in comparison, in the state of Texas. And then if I had such a, like, my now ex-boyfriend, he kept trying to tell me, you hate the state of Texas, you hate the state of Texas. No, I don't. Yes, you do. I know you hate the state of Texas. No, I don't. I don't. If I did, I would not. No, I'm not. I don't hate the state of Texas. Yes, you do. You hate the state of Texas. No, I don't. Go to your room. I know you hate the state of Texas. I don't hate the state of Texas. And so, here's me being rebellious. I'm going to show you how rebellious I am. I went and bought my son one of those mats that had the longhorn symbol on it, because my son said that was the college football team that he liked. And I was like, that's right, there you go. I don't hate the state of Texas now, do I? Go to your room. I still don't hate the state of Texas. And then I went and got another mat, and it was ironically Texas Tech or Texas A&M or something, whatever it was. I was like, yeah, it's not hating the state of Texas now, is it? Going and having it. It's right. Yeah. Can't go and say that I don't like the state of Texas or I hate the state of Texas if I'm, look, there it is. Don't forget, my son was born in the state of Texas. That's my son. I love my son. My daughter, born in the state of Texas. I love my daughters. And so, yeah, Tell me. I don't recommend getting into an argument or a debate with me when I know I am absolutely correct. I have the ability to listen to other sides, but if I know I am absolutely correct, you are not going to get me to change my mind. And obviously, being back in the state of Texas in 2020, I obviously don't hate the state of Texas, huh? Oh, yeah, there you go. Maybe he hated the state of Texas and he was trying to project that. That's his issue, not mine. Just saying. So, yeah. So, that's what I had to say on that. So, I hope that you enjoyed that little official YouTube channel video of mine, and comment and like and share and subscribe to my official YouTube channel, Reverend MeeLing. You guys have a good one.